Good evening, everybody. It's December 3rd, 2021, and we had a rough day if you're a bull for Bitcoin. So we broke down below actually both of the levels that I was looking to as support. So I said, below 55K, it's a definite warning sign, and below this 53.2 low, and it becomes much more likely that we are entering into the scenario where we're going to the 40K region for Bitcoin. And we did both of those things with the action today. You can see here it kind of hesitated for a couple hours right after it broke 55K, and then we just had a large dump down into this lower area. So let's take a look at what the micro action is saying, what might be possible, because remember, you don't have a straight down, even on these big dumps, it still kind of comes up. Big dump, still kind of comes up. Big dump, comes up, right? So you are going to have retraces along the way. So we need to figure out what the best way to interpret this is, and interpret where it's going, and interpret where we may have a bounce at some point, right? So what we can do certainly is eliminate this bullish possibility that's been taken off the table at this point in time. I'm going to remove this red line because it referred to this action back here. Leave that green box on, that was support, and that support got broken, so I'll leave that there. So what we have, I'm fairly certain still, is we've got these 5 waves down, right? So there was our 4 and our 5. What is unfortunate, more than anything, in my opinion, is that we did not get a clear ABC up. Remember, that was my kind of going to be my warning sign. I wanted to see if we got action that clearly looked corrective. And if it clearly looked corrective as an ABC wave up like this, we would have had a little bit more warning. We definitely could have put our stops then below these lows here, and at least had a little more warning on it. But alas, that didn't happen. If you remember, it did technically hit like the 618 region, I think, of this move. Let's zoom in here and see. If we draw a fib extension from the bottom to the top of that move there, it didn't even really reach that. Like this, for this to be a C wave, it should have gotten at a minimum to this 618, and we did not even hit that. So it is very, very odd corrective action that we didn't get that high. So that still makes me just kind of question what's going on here. It's a bit odd. But regardless, at this point in time, I think the best interpretation of this data is that we've got A wave down. This is B wave, even though we didn't really see a good 3 waves, but that's our B wave there, and we're probably entering into a C wave. So I'm going to do 2 things. Number 1 is I'll draw a fib extension downwards now, A to B, like so. Let's make that, I don't think I have any red right now, let's make that red just to see where that projects us down to. If that is going to be ABC correction down, which I expect in my larger diagonal scenario, I'll go over that on the daily chart in a second. This gives us a support area and kind of a target area right about here. Anywhere in this 50.4 down to 43,000. Anywhere in that area is kind of the expected end for a C wave. So, shorting right now is not necessarily a good idea. It could simply do a shallow C wave, hit there and take off. It wouldn't be out of the norm for Bitcoin to do something like that. So we don't have good risk reward right now on shorts, in my opinion, even though I think we're going lower here. The main focus for me, again, I've spoken about bull markets not ending on 3 waves, and that's all we have. So worst case scenario was always that it was going to go into this 40K region before then moving upwards off of that. I don't know why it doesn't want to get rid of that yellow circle that just got messed up. There we go. So that was always the end, kind of worst case scenario that I was looking at, as far as keeping this, bullish, on a bullish path upwards. So I think that still is reasonable. So what we can do is look even more micro here. If I zoom in all the way, C waves, which is what this should be, typically have 5 waves down. I'm going to consider this all part of the chop, but this move right here looks to me like it could be our 1, 2 in the micro. So that's what I'm going to consider that as 1 and 2. And then that very much looks like probably the end of a 3rd wave. So we're going to say that's 3, that's 2, draw our fibs, find resistance, which is right here, and you can see that is where we rejected from. So that is our resistance zone right there. The bears defended it at this point in time, and we're likely moving down into wave 5 now. Target for that is right here. And that is near the top of this green box. So that kind of, maybe says to me, maybe that's all we get. Once that 5th wave completes, maybe that's all we get. The danger, of course, is that after that, this is not the whole 5 waves. This is just 5 waves in one. Then we get a 2, then we get a 3, then we get a 4, then we get a 5. We could get 5 waves down and a C wave, something like that, into the lower region. But as of right now, the micro is pointing towards 49.5 to 50.5, somewhere in that range, likely being the bottom of this immediate move. And then we will have to see what happens after that. And always we are looking for 5 waves up off the low. I've talked about that multiple times. It's what we needed to see here. We had a 1 and a 2, but we never completed 3, 4, 5. So if we hit here and then see an actual 5 waves up, then we can say C has completed. It's a very shallow C, and we are on the way back up into the bull market. If instead we see corrective action like this, ABC, and it doesn't extend any further, then we'll expect another wave down in a 3, and probably a wave up then 4, and then a wave down in 5. So we're just going to continue to let the price action speak. That's what Elliott wave theory really in its truest form is about. It's about interpreting price action, and having a visual representation on the chart here of what market psychology is, and trying to have actionable insight based on that. So short-term downside is still expected here. As a summary, short-term downside is expected to there. We should bounce from somewhere in that region. Not going to be surprised at all to see a bounce, and that could come up high enough to give a potentially an exit point if we wanted to, on some spot longs or some spot buys that we did in Bitcoin. But to be honest, I don't know. We're getting into this area where it's just like, all right, maybe we just hold on. Like, is it worth it to, if this clearly does corrective action, it's worth it to probably get out, and then if it happens to continue, we can get back in, or you could simply just hold on, because this box is really the expectation now of where we're likely to go, and this is all going to be another decent buying opportunity. And let me quickly switch over to the daily chart, which I said I would do, to go over what I think is probably happening here. I think the orange is unlikely at this point. We've broken down probably further than we should have. So unless it proves otherwise to me, that's unlikely. I think this is the more reasonable count to expect. So what we have, this is my A, B, and C, 3 waves up off of the low. We're ending a bull market though, and like I said, we do not see bull markets end on 3 waves. So there really is not any good explanation, in my opinion, for the bull market ending at this point. There is a bearish alternative, which I've mentioned before, and I'll go over that real quickly again here. But in my opinion, the most likely scenario is, that was our AB, and we're getting C down into this green box here. That seems more likely, and then we should get another ABC up in 3, and then we'll get ABC down in 4, and then ABC up in 5, and we should still see then sort of this 100K area on Bitcoin based on that. That to me is most likely at this point in time. The alternative scenario, which I had mentioned when this was looking like an ABC, I said the alternative is perhaps this is part of a larger expanded flat correction in 4. Maybe 4 is not done over here. It certainly looked like it should have been, but maybe we're going to get W, X, and Y. If we dip back down into this area here, it's right in that 30K range, I still, based on the chart, am not going to believe that the bull market is over, right? It seems crazy that we could go from 67K down to 30K again, because that's pretty much what happened here. But bull markets do not end on 3 waves. They just don't. And so the likelihood would be, if we do that, if we come down here, we should then see an actual 5-wave move off the lows to finish off the bull market. So, hopefully we don't end up in that scenario. That would be just annoying that it would stretch out that long, to be honest. We're looking for some quicker profits than that in Bitcoin, but frankly, that's kind of how I'm interpreting it at this point. So even the bearish scenario is still bullish in the long run. It's just gonna make it quite annoying in the short term. So until this scenario is disproven, this is going to be my primary one, where we see this large green box here hold somewhere in that range, down here, potentially down as low as 43. But we'll just go from there. We need to keep letting the price action dictate what's happening here. So the way that we would say, potentially the more bearish scenario is going to happen is if this is our 1, 2. If we crash through this green box and come down here more to 38, we'll expect then a bounce back up to about 45, but crashing through that green box pretty much guarantees that we are going lower then, and we're going to head back down here to about 35 based on this extension here. So that's kind of the key, is whether or not we break this green box. The green box needs to hold. If we break down below it, then the next time it comes up above, back into it, is probably the time to get out for a move down to that 35 region, and we'll go from there. But this was a longer video than normal, simply because the action today was just so intense. There's a lot of stuff to work through here. So hopefully that all made sense to everybody, and we'll see. It's the weekend coming up, so low liquidity time periods can lead to some interesting moves. We'll see what happens. If we do in fact get some ridiculous pumping or ridiculous dumping or whatever, you might be able to play some scalps, but it is going to be dangerous trading, I think, coming up here. I would consider longing here potentially, although I don't have a good stop out point for it, and I would consider shorting maybe in this region here. That seems like it was support and now it's broken, so it's possible it comes up to try to test that at some point and then heads back down. I would be more likely to short that if we got here first. So since we did, let me label this, I didn't label it. Since we did 1, 2, 3, 4, if we get a 5th wave down like that, then it would be reasonable to assume that the next bounce is probably corrective off of that low, and shorting, like I said, I would kind of expect that region there. maybe 55, 56K to be a region we could short. And so that would then have some pretty good risk rewards. Like I said, not a time to short now, but up here, shorting with a stop probably above these highs gives you pretty good risk reward, because then it would potentially come down lower into that 40K region, and is an outside reward to the risk. It's a larger reward versus the risk that you're taking. So anyway, I think that pretty much sums it up. So signing off for now, and I should be able to do a video. Yeah, the next 2 nights I'll be around to do a video. I'm not going to be around tomorrow afternoon, and then Sunday morning I won't be around, but I should be able to do a video both nights anyway. All right, good night, everybody.